then.
Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hi, this is Nick Anastasiou, lead editor and writer on Maul Shadowlord, and you're listening to Aggressive Negotiations.
Hello and welcome to Aggressive Negotiations, coming at you from that idyllic planet Plazar 15, where we are just hanging out with the regents as we enjoy a wonderful beverage. And I am just one of your hosts here, Matthew Rushing, and with me, as he is always, in a delightful costume that I didn't see coming, with an interesting holographic display behind him, Jedi Master John Mills. John, what is that behind you exactly?
Well, it's actually it's a galactic interpretation of my favorite piece of art, which is actually going to be Edvard Munch's The Scream in this case, to represent the existential angst of the fact that I have a holographic CG thing as part of my costume, actually.
Huh.
So, yeah. There you go. I'm just hoping these drinks don't have nanobots that make me act all cray-cray in this episode.
I hope not. That would, I mean, if you're drinking that, I think we have a problem. Anyway, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, of course. Please subscribe and rate the show wherever you are. We would love that. It really helps us grow, helps more people find us. Of course, you can find us on social media. We're on X, Twitter at The Jedi Masters. We're on Instagram at The Nerd Party. You can find us online at thenerdparty.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Nerd Party, as well as the entire network is also on X, Twitter at Join Nerd Party. So, John, as we're walking through The Mandalorian, we're at an episode called Guns for Hire, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, and Bo-Katan and Din Djarin are on a mission to find her old troop, which had been taken over and left her by the wayside because, she couldn't hold on to the Darksaber. It was given to her, and therefore she was not the leader that they were looking for. Gosh, let's just get right into it, man. Dude, this episode feels so schizophrenic because there's two completely different sides to this episode. One feels like an episode of Star Trek that we might experience in a 22 episode, 24, 26 episode season where you've got so much time on your hands and you're just kind of exploring the universe. And the other is completely connected to the rest of the Mandalorian story that we've been telling. And I don't quite know, even in the rewatch, just exactly how to make these two fit.
I enjoyed it more on the rewatch, maybe because my earlier disappointment was not possible. But I think you hit the nail on the head there. This is a difficult episode because if we still lived in the era of the 24, 22 episode season, then an episode like this is 1/24th of the time. And I'm much more forgiving about sort of, having a side quest like this where it's like, oh, this is silly, fun, but okay, it's a palate cleanser between the more serious episodes. Sure. It's a bottle episode, which I think is what everybody would call a Star Trek episode like this, where it's like, it's pretty much self-contained, right? Even though you have a prologue and an epilogue that tie into the rest of it. Yeah, okay. Right. X-Files had episodes like that too, where, when they had the long seasons and everything, where it was like, yeah, you know what? The fluke monster has nothing to do with the overall mythology. And you just kind of like it. Or the Cher episode or anything like that. It doesn't have to do with the big alien mythology and government conspiracy stuff. It's the X-Files. We're going to do stuff like this. I think what makes this episode doubly frustrating is because we feel like we lost time with the earlier episode with Dr. Pershing, because that felt like a side quest episode constructed just like this one, where it opens up, oh yeah, I'm fully invested. Then it cuts over to something and I'm like, oh, is this just world building? Oh, this feels like it's tied into Rangers of the New Republic. Okay. Oh, and then the end feels tacked in. This follows the same structure. And I think that's its biggest problem is in the context of an 8-episode season, I don't know why I'm having a stunt casting episode like this, because I'll go ahead and I'll throw out there to you. The first time I watched this, seeing Lizzo and Jack Black, I just was taken completely out of it. Now, we've had nostalgia casting before. Christopher Lloyd occurs in that context. Michael Biehn exists in that context. There's little stunt casting that happens, but Jack Black and Lizzo are just too recognizable. And it's just, it's sort of like a brain break that happens with me. Did that happen with you too?
With Lizzo more so than with Jack Black, mainly because, at least Jack Black, I think, is kind of playing this over-the-top character that feels like you could meet him in the Clone Wars. Lizzo's acting here is just so wooden that there's just not a lot to it, and I think that really does pull you out and make you just picture who this is in real life. But I agree, too, is like, even for all that Jack Black is doing, these are names that are so big that they bring you out of Star Wars, right? They bring you out of the universe far, far away. And I would say, too, it probably would have helped if Jack Black had basically been playing the character that Christopher Lloyd is. So he's not playing something you've seen so often. And this kind of caricature of himself at this point that he just continues to play. And had Christopher Lloyd playing the character that Jack Black is playing.
That's interesting.
I think it would have fit much better in the episode, and it would have made it feel more cohesive because, again, you have them sort of playing a little bit against type, and I would have liked that more. And I agree with you, like, it is an incredibly interesting thing to want to explore the idea of droids and their lives and their rights and all that. I think that's really interesting. But again, this also feels like half an episode that should have been in Rangers of the New Republic.
Yep.
And the other half of this episode is just incredibly important for everything we're doing with the Mandalorians. And, I loved seeing the battle droids again. I loved getting to, go to the droid bar and learn about Nana Pente or whatever they call it, that they kind of like drink.
Rura Pente?
Yeah, Rura Pente. Exactly. It's like a prison planet, but for your body as a droid.
There you go.
And,
that works.
Less frozen, though. But, yeah, like all of that in the same way that, like, what's so fascinating, because rewatching this episode, they steal so much from Harry Potter. The droids' whole identity is basically house elves.
Yeah.
They gave us life and we want to serve them. That's what makes us happy. And of course, that's not in Harry Potter. Wizards don't give house elves lives, but their whole lives revolve around serving their masters. And the same thing with droids. And then, of course, the Darksaber is, we talked about it way back when we crossed over with the 602 Club, I think previously when we talked about season 3, but it's the Elder Wand. And so it's just like, there's a lot of this that, again, it's not that it's bad in the sense that we want to explore these things. They are interesting. Watching Din play, talk to Ugnaughts and because of his experience and all that, stuff's not bad. It just feels out of place in an 8-episode season, like you said. If we were even maybe doing 10 episodes, maybe this feels less awkward because having that stop would have been like at episode 6, right? And then you have 4 more episodes after that to really build to that finale. Here there's only 2 episodes after this.
Well, I mean, but additionally, one of the criticisms that was leveled, I think, unfairly toward The Mandalorian is, it felt like a video game episode, like all the, he shows up, he's given a quest, he goes, he completes the quest, he gets the next thing to continue on to the next level. I think that's a completely unfair thing. But this one, what's frustrating is even if you wanted to accept that as a valid criticism, oh, you have to go complete this request for me to give you permission to go do this thing that you could do without asking me. Well, that's silly.
Yeah, what are they going to do to stop them? They don't have an army.
Right. We don't have a military, but you can't go see them. Yeah. What? Like, that doesn't even make sense. And I definitely think this is one of those Rangers of the New Republic episodes that got subsumed. They just didn't want to throw away the work. And I don't hate the episode. That's the thing. I don't even hate the Lizzo and Jack Black stuff. It's cute. It's frivolous. The only frustration comes from the fact that it burns so much time. And especially as we go forward, when we meet the spies and we go to Mandalore, I get frustrated all over again because I'm like, man, I wish I had that hour because I could have spent it with these guys and found out even more about what they were doing instead of having them be in like one episode with an opportunity to talk about themselves. That's really frustrating to me. That's very difficult. And it's one of those things where, again, if anything, what I like about the episode is the fact that it has a very, and I know people will groan when I say this, but it has a very holiday special feel to it, where it's just bonkers. It's just crazy. They're just doing crazy space stuff because why not? And it's silly and it's not taking itself seriously. Cool. I don't have a problem with that. It's just awkwardly wedged in there. And I even think that having the opening part with the guns for hire, this is another episode where like I look at the story editing possibilities and I'm like, man, this is something that little teaser should have actually happened earlier in the season. Like as we go through this season, I get even more of a sense of like, I could pick apart pieces of this and re-edit this season together and it would have gone a lot better, I think. And the thing is, this is somebody who's not a professional editor. So throw away my opinion if you want to. But I look at this and again, there's a whole ton of puzzle pieces. And I just think that the puzzle doesn't come together in the right way. I think this episode can even work in the context of an 8-episode season if things are juggled a different way.
Yeah, I think that in rewatching the season, one of the things that I've come down to, which is this is really interesting. Like, over the years when we've revisited the sequel trilogy, it's been fascinating to see just kind of my original reactions be solidified for me. In the sense that from the moment this season ended, season 3 ended, and even as it was going on, as it was originally airing, it just felt misedited together story-wise. It felt like it needed to be rearranged, and you had the pieces to be able to do that. And what that would have taken was either fixing where things happened story-wise in different episodes, or it would have taken more of maybe an interweaving. But I think either one of those, you could have done this and still made it work with what you had. Story-wise, it just need to be reordered. And because again, like you said, I don't just hate anything in this episode other than I think just some of the casting choices, which I think just really hurt the episode, and you can't do anything about that with that casting choice other than just bear it. But there is stuff to like in this. Again, the droid things, that's kind of fascinating. And it's a fun thing because, ever since we, saw Solo and you had L3 and that kind of thing, it brought droids to life in a way that we'd never really thought of, I think. And so this kind of plays on that. What is a droid's life really like? And
Yeah.
And can they be redeemed if they're quote unquote an evil droid with evil programming? Which, gosh, I mean, that whole aspect is just like, that's meta. And it could have been something really interesting if you had explored it like in a Clone Wars episode. I think the problem is that just in this season and the way and where it is, it just doesn't work the way they want it to.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's basically pretty much all there is to say about the season. Or not the season.
Well, I do want to ask. That's pretty
much all there is to say about the episode in a very large sense.
Yeah.
Where it's like I don't want to beat up on it. Like, even talking about the casting, I agree with you. Lizzo isn't well suited for what this role is asking, but I'm not mad at Lizzo about it. I'm not dragging Lizzo. This is just
a choice.
I wouldn't have turned it down. They gave her the opportunity to do this. I would have said yes too. Who wouldn't? And it's not her fault in that sense. She is trying her best. If anything, I would lay it at the feet of Bryce Dallas Howard, because I happen to be in the Roger Ebert camp. It's the job of the director to get the performance you need from the talent you have. And therefore, if there's any shortcoming in Lizzo's performance, it's not just her fault.
Yeah.
It's actually the fault of the director, because the director should be able to get the performance there, or at least something that can be edited around in such a way that it doesn't feel as deficient.
Well, and I think that the other part about this that is frustrating is that the whole aspect with the Mandalorians is great.
Mm-hmm.
The fight between Bo-Katan and what's his name?
Axe.
And Axe. Fantastic, right? The bringing together of the Mandalorians, that Bo had put so much time and effort to putting in together, but now she's taking what she had done previously and bringing all the Mandalorians back together. And it's just like, that part of the story is just so wonderful. And it feels as though that should have been the main focus of the entire episode, because it's so pivotal to the storyline of the Mandalorian and the Mandalorians, as we've talked about throughout this season. And I think that's the other frustration that I feel. It's like the other side of the episode feels so frivolous compared to the really important thing that's happening here at the end of this episode, which then gets short shrift because we only have 7 minutes to deal with it in a 45-minute episode.
Yeah. And it is. And look, yes, the stuff with the droids is very interesting, but at the same time, I could understand why a more casual fan than you and I would feel frustrated and even a little lost, because they're bringing battle droids into this. And it's a prequel era thing, but that's even a little bit disorienting for somebody who's a cash, because they're going to look at that and they're going to be like, wait, I thought we were in a different era. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Because the era blending doesn't always work as well. I speak from personal experience that the era blending doesn't always work well when I talk with people, where they're like, wait, when is this happening?
Yeah.
Because I thought that belonged to that era, because people look for the visual stuff that happens. So even changing the types of droids that they had would have, I think, helped the episode, and sprinkle in some battle droids, but don't have so many battle droids everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a delightful thing for me.
Yeah.
I thought it was great, but I understand why it makes it a little harder to access for a more casual fan.
Yeah. It is one of those episodes where, it feels like it could have been a thing that I would have had hours to talk about. And instead, because we truncated the important part it feels like a less important episode, even though the end of this is pivotal to the end of the season, where we're going in the next 2 episodes.
Yep.
And so that's just a strange thing. And so I don't know. What do you rate this episode?
Honestly, it's gonna by default have the lowest rating I think I'm gonna give this season, which is 2.5. Because again, there are parts here that I enjoy, like on their own. And when I rewatched this, I rewatched it with my kid, and she had fun with it. Again, I always encourage people, watch a show with a kid.
Yeah.
The kid should be the part of you inside that the show is talking to.
Yeah, right.
And 10-year-old me would have been far less critical of it.
Oh,
but I got to
absolutely.
come into this a little more critically and look at it and be like, yeah, I don't fault the pieces. I just fault the way it came together. And I think there were opportunities, especially in the context of the season as a whole, where they could have taken the pieces of this,
right,
including the stuff on Peloton 25 or whatever the planet's called.
Yeah.
I'll never remember this name. But like just rearranging pieces could have made it work a lot better. So where do you land with it?
Yeah, I think that's well said. The fact that this is unfortunately like a 2.5, because I do think it's like half a good episode. And the reason I say that is because the half that matters, we actually get less than half the episode to deal with it. But the other part does have enough interesting aspects that it's like, I'm not sad that we went there. I'm just frustrated we went there right now. And so, I think that, it's just where we are. And we've got 2 more episodes this season to talk about. And then I'm just really interested to see where we end up, because I do remember those being strong together as like a duology for the finale for season 3. And so I can't wait to get to them. But John, we've had so much Mandalorian talk. We've talked about Maul as well recently, talked about that whole season. Mando and Grogu is just about to come out. So if people wanted to talk Star Wars, where would they find you?
I'm always happy to talk Star Wars. Look for me online as Kessel Junkie. I love talking on Letterboxd and Goodreads. So on May 21st, preview night, if you want to find out what I thought about Mandalorian and Grogu, look to Letterboxd, because that'll be the first indication of how that conversation is going to go here on Aggressive Negotiations and its crossover with 602 Club. And, of course, you can find me here on the network co-hosting a show called House Lights with Darren Moser and Tristan Riddell. We have a good time on that one. We have a lot of fun. Come on over and have some fun with us, too. And honestly, I mentioned 602 Club. You mentioned 602 Club. That's one of the places where people can find you. But where else can people talk to you about Star Wars, Matt?
Absolutely.
Or anything else?
Social media, if I'm there, the name is Matt Rushing02. So just check that out, search that. And you can also find me, of course, here on the network. Got a completed show called Owl Post about every single chapter of the Harry Potter series. And then you can find me over on the TFM network with, as you mentioned, the 602 Club, and a lot of great Star Trek talk with my good friend Chris Jones. So please check out all of those shows. But as always, John, I think we're having brunch here with the Regent. So I think it's time to close these negotiations.
I knew that you hated me. Negotiations are closed.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.